Father, we come to you this hour asking for your blessing and help as we gather together. We pray for your guidance in matters at hand and ask that you will clearly show us how to conduct our work. As winter approaches, blanket all so we can comfort others. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, God, indivisible.
These proceedings are being recorded for the sole purpose of constituting the accuracy of written minutes. Tapes are reused, eliminating recorded records of these proceedings. First item is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting held November 10th, 2022. Noting the change to agenda item 22-611, amendment to the agreement with Prestige Home Health Care LLC to provide personal care and home support services for the term of July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2024. The correct term should be July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2025.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yeah.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yeah.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes. Are there any guests concerning county business at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on.
The next item is a resolution for approval, resolution honoring Avery James Osler, member of Boy Scout Troop 209 of Lehighton, Pennsylvania, on attaining the rank of Eagle Scout.
Motion to adopt resolution 22-032. Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Avery, I will read the resolution before Avery will give you a little bit of a. Whereas Avery James Hostler of Lehighton has succeeded in achieving scouting's highest honor, the rank of Eagle Scout. Whereas Avery James Hostler is a member of Boy Scout Troop 209 Permanent Rod and Gun Club, has been involved in scouting for 6 years. During his scouting career, he has earned 60 badges, including camping, cooking, fishing, and shotgun. Avery has served as a then chief, patrol leader, assistant senior patrol leader, and senior patrol leader and quartermaster. Avery James Hostler, Eagle Scout project was installing 4 benches and 4 dog waste receptacles posted along the new remodeled B&L Trail, Golden Trail in East Penn Township. 2 benches were 10 feet long, metal rubber coated, and the others were 8 feet long, metal rubber coated. As excavating helped with the excavators helped with the holes for the benches and the dogs post due to the rocky nature of the trail. During the excavation for the benches, large rocks were unearthed. The rock was repositioned with a flat side to the trail where a plaque will be installed. A backhoe was used to carry supplies down the trail, while Avery and fellow scouts pushed a wheelbarrow that carried more supplies. The project took 3 months to complete, and Avery, along with 6 adults, 6 scouts, spent 270 hours on the project. Whereas Avery James Hostler has developed the necessary skills and determination to achieve an honor he has valued for the rest of his life. Whereas Avery James Hostler is an inspiration to young men through the dedication and leadership. The Board of Commissioners of Carbon County wish to acknowledge of Avery James Hostler. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Carbon County hereby recognizes the achievement of Avery James Hostler and hereby commend and congratulate him in attaining the rank of Eagle Scout, adopted by the Carbon County Commissioners 17th day of November 2022 with Wayne Notstein, Rocky Horner, and Commissioner Chris Lukasevich. Thank you. So, Avery, here's your view of how you got here.
I've been in scouting for 6 years, and at first I wasn't sure if I was gonna do Eagle, like get all the way to the top. But my friends and family pushed me to do it. And I met a bunch of other fellow Eagle Scouts along the way, and they pushed me to do it and told me that it's worth it and that not that many people have it. Well, you already explained my project.
You can explain, hey, I didn't get all the details, so you can do more if you would like.
At first, for the beginning of the project, the original plan was to install 8 to 10 benches, but then some of the benches went missing. So I ended up only installing 4, which made it kind of easier. So then they added on to install the receptacle bags, and then the township in a couple months will put like bags in them for the dogs. But they also need grant money to open up the trail because it's still really rocky.
I don't think I mentioned that. How did it get to the point that some were missing?
They thought that I took them, but I don't have a truck, so
And nobody ever found where they went to.
no.
Okay.
Well, they're not at Mock Chunk Lake.
No. But I think we have to commend you for what you have done. I mean, it's like, I think it's good to see that just young people in general are stepping up to be leaders. I mean, that's something that's, I mean, we have to commend you for that.
Definitely, and I want to thank you for coming today, and again, apologize that we cannot make your official court of honor, because it's quite the program. Very few people such as yourself really achieve the rank of Eagle Scout, the highest you can go. And I feel sorry or sad that I cannot be at your court of honor. We're all away. Unfortunately, our commissioners conference starts this Sunday and through Tuesday, but I want to thank you. And one of the things I want to tell you is I do other Eagle Scouts. When you put applications in, put on that application, you are an Eagle Scout. That's something to be proud of, extremely proud of. Very few people achieve that award. And it shows to me that you are trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. I have traveled the trail that you have, and I was honored to receive it. Believe me, you will remember this day or your court of honor. The skills you have learned over the years, you will use throughout your life. Unfortunately, I don't think you realize how many people are going to enjoy maybe those future benches or getting them back or but what you have done for that trail, as in other Eagle Scout projects and that, so many people enjoy whatever the project was and use the facilities that maybe scouting has repaired or built. And it's unfortunate that you are not recognized more for your project and what you do. I wish you continued success. I hope in the future you will maybe become a scout leader. It is a family event, a family project, or I don't know how to say it exactly, but it takes family and family support and the support of many good community leaders to develop the skills and leadership of our future. So I commend you very much, Avery, and good luck in the future.
Avery, let me make probably 2 points. One, first and foremost, thank you for setting the example for other young men and women here in Carbon County. You mentioned in your own comments that not many have it, and Commissioner Nostine made mention of that also, right? That puts you in an elite group. And I will tell you from your court of honor forward, and probably from this session here forward, people are always going to connect Eagle Scout to your name, either preceding your name, Eagle Scout, Avery James Hostler, or following your name. That's a burden of responsibility. People are going to look at you differently. They're going to expect differently of you. They're going to expect and hold you to a much higher standard than the average Joe on the street, right? And you've proven you're up to that task. But I'll tell you what, that task, that burden truly just starts today, and it's going to continue for the rest of your life. And I'd ask you to keep that in mind every time you're in public when you're conducting yourself, because people are not only looking at you, now they're looking at the entire program. What does scouting teach? What type of young men and women does scouting develop? And now you are that walking example of it. So bear that burden and bear that burden proudly is what I offer you.
Avery, this time it's photo op. Oh,
You're gonna be in the middle.
good job. Well done.
Want them to hold it open.
Ready, guys? 1, 2, 3. And can I get one just to do this quickly?
I'll give you the opportunity, sir.
Oh.
Oh,
Avery only.
Yep, just
Get out of
get out.
there.
Get out of here.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Don't put the family on a bad concern. Give them the opportunity because you have something to be proud of there. Sure.
Well, thank you for the young man you raised.
Oh,
Right?
thank
And so-
you.
I'm glad you can make it to that.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you
Thank you very much.
so much for doing.
So what are you thinking now?
Avery, I want to warn you, I did sign a letter right before the meeting, so you can get back in the school, so.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
He starts his first job today.
Wow.
Okay, thank you so
Take
much
care.
for allowing us to
Yes.
be here.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item is the report of executive sessions held.
There was one executive session held on Monday, November 14th at 10:30 a.m. for personnel, Tuesday, November 15th at 9 a.m. for personnel, and Wednesday, November 16th at 11 a.m. for personnel.
Next item is the department reports, the budget transfers.
Motion approved.
Second?
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes,
There are no supplemental appropriations. Expenditures, approval of check numbers 232260 through 232736 for expenditures to the general fund clearing account totaling $616,906.24.
Move to approve. Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes,
The treasurer's report,
Motion approved.
Second?
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes,
The personnel report for county departments,
Motion approved.
Second?
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes,
The personnel report, acknowledgements for courts and row offices,
Move to acknowledge.
Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yeah,
Correspondence with received as listed, copies will be made available to the press upon request. Adult probation. For approval, award of funding in the amount of $250,000. First year, $187,500. Second year, $62,500. From the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency for the 2021-2022 Justice Assistance Grant Local Initiatives Funding. The grant funds will be used to hire 2 pretrial officers and 1 part-time sentencing guideline technician for the term of October 1, 2022 through September 30th, 2024. The program will focus on the utilization of evidence-based decision-making during bail and sentencing decisions. The application was approved on March 31st, 2022. Agenda item number 22-160.
Motion approved.
second,
Discussion. So the county in early 2020 approved a pretrial officer grant employee whose impact has been negligible. I don't necessarily accept COVID as an excuse, nor turnover of personnel as an appropriate excuse for lack of notable progress, given the task and the purpose of the grant. I've seen no data that shows otherwise than the comments that I made, and we're 2 years into that grant. There is a significant budget deficit projected for the county this year. I am opposed to any new hires in 2023, 2024 without an equal offset employee. So one full-time for one full-time removal of 2 or 3 part-time. By adult probation's own admission, this is not simply a 2-year commitment, but a 5-year commitment. That is commitment, not simply of $250,000 that you see in this motion, but a commitment of an additional $685,000 for salary and benefits alone. And we know there's additional incurred costs by the county when we bring in any employee, part-time or full-time. Unfortunately, we are a county that does not do budget forecasting, compounding our inability to adequately plan and support multi-year projects and programs such as this one. We are currently told and constantly told, that positions like this are diversion centric, save the taxpayer money. Give you an example where this is not quite the case in our county prison, which this is supposed to help impact, right? Divert individuals from prison. 2020, 191 inmates, a budget of $5.698 million, just under $30,000 an inmate. In 2022, we're averaging 140 inmates at $6.987 million, right? So about more than $47,000 per inmate. For all intent and purposes, we saw a diversion of 43 inmates, right? There's 43 less inmates, yet you see a significant increase. So there's no example that diversion is working if you use that. In 2023, the requested budget for the prison goes from 6.987 to $7.956 million. And again, we're averaging about 150 inmates up there. Almost all prison costs, inmate costs, are fixed costs. Utilities, food, corrections officers. We've gone from 191 inmates down to 148. No reduction in fixed costs, right? The only really non-fixed costs are things like maybe additional inmate uniforms, a little bit of additional transport for those. But those costs are incurred by other offices, and savings are incurred by other offices. Additionally, as I think the public are well aware, I continue to hold the position that the courts, which includes adult probation, does not comply with Act 57. I've seen no commitment by the courts or adult probation to comply with Act 57. Therefore, I'll continue to oppose motions such as these that incur an unnecessary burden on the county taxpayer.
Last night, we had another graduation in the vet court and drug treatment court. 4 more individuals without a vision years ago. And it took that while to get that program up and running. Normally it takes approximately 2 years till we have someone graduate. What this program does, and I think the vet court and the drug court also do, is reduce the amount of recidivism. It is extremely hard to put a number on the cost of reincarcerating the people. We all know crime is going up. It's an ugly world we live in today, but these costs continue to continue. It's a cost. to the local municipalities and the police departments with crime. It's a cost when they arrest a person, they go to the magistrate's office. It continues on into the county court system, such as the agencies involved or departments involved, the clerk of courts, auditory perhaps, the district attorney, public defender, court system, the sheriff's department. It all adds up, and it's definitely a hard thing to put a number on, and what the recidivism or rearrest of these people cost the county in the long term. When we go to the long-term costs and the successes in the drug court, and I'm not sure what the number is, but we have a graduation every year. So we've kept those people. It's not only those programs, there's a lot of other programs that are involved in these drug and alcohol, mental health issues, et cetera, and it's getting worse every day. So I feel it is extremely important that we do what we can. Yeah, it's gonna be a cost up front, but what is the long-term cost of instituting these programs to try to bring these people back to a normal life, a productive life? We heard a couple of stories last night from the graduates and a previous person who was reincarcerated several times until they got in the right track. A lot of the programs that are out there now are not very successful, but I feel the drug court, victims, veterans court, et cetera, are extremely successful, and I think they are productive in the long term.
And I will probably agree with both of them. But I look at this and I think we had talked to the director about this, and I had a conversations with everybody. And I agree with Chris that if something isn't working, should we actually stick to that grant? We've had grants before. In fact, the one I think that was in the public defenders, I think it is working out very well, and the other one is not. So I think, I don't want to stop this, but I want to stop that if we're hiring people and it's not working, then let's go to something else. I look at this something else, and it's budget time right now, and we're doing crunching. And if there's somebody that's in there that's not productive, that's not doing us any good, I think we have to review what the other grants were. And I know it's not nice to fire somebody, but if it isn't working, don't keep it, because here we're looking at actually 3 other employees, which is a big debt to the county and the taxpayer. But I look at it, we're on the prison board, we're on CMP, and things do work when you try to help people. But I said, I think, Matt, as you as the director, I think you have to make a decision on who's gonna stay and who's not. I mean, that's a big burden, but if we wanna advance, then we have to make decisions. And that's where I'm going from. And I mean, I see a lot of things where we have progressed, and I don't think we should stand in the way of progression.
We do already have a pre-trial grant employee billing. Let's utilize it. Let's finish out its year plus. And if it's working, again, I would argue up to now that it isn't working because we're not seeing results from it. We'll then go ahead and reapply for a grant of this nature in the future. Also, again, I'm a true believer in prevention, right? This isn't preventing anything. This is a reaction to the results. Let's take $250,000 invested in 501c3s that are going to make a difference in our community and our families. Because we know the fact is the problems start with the failure of the family unit, right? So let's go ahead and be preventive instead of reactive to the problem, because we're not curing the problem, just simply a symptom of where our culture and our family nucleus is right now in this country.
And I'm just going back to the grant procedure too. I mean, yes, we put in for this, but some of these grants can be altered. Is it gonna be that we need 3 people? What do we need for the future? I mean, wasn't this put in place under the other director and then fell on you? Am I correct at that?
Yes.
So maybe you might have different ideas, and And do we actually need the 3 people? I mean, accepting a grant does not mean we're hiring 3 people. That was under your guidelines that you put in. You can go back to the grant application and say, hey, we reviewed this, we only needed 2 people. And that's what I said. That's why I don't want to stand in the way of this. And I was told that if this doesn't go through this way, you know, grants will not be accepted in the future. I've seen a lot of townships and counties or towns that accept grants and never use them because they don't have the funding for it. So I think we have to use our heads on where we're moving into the future.
I'd like to also point out that grant is highly competitive. And to turn it down at this point in time would jeopardize a lot of other possible grants through the DCCDD. So I think we have to be extremely cautious in that and confident we can make this a successful grant. And if it isn't, well, then I was wrong. Not the first time I.
Don't want to downplay the success that Judge Matee and the team have made with DTC and BTC, drug treatment court and veteran treatment court. Like Commissioner Notzien said, we saw another example of it with this most recent graduation last night. But guess what? There was no pre-trial grant employee when that program started. And it was successful. I believe it's just the 9th graduation that they had, right? The majority of those graduations occurred before the grant position, the pretrial grant position was approved in adult probation. That position, I would say, probably impacted drug treatment court, veteran treatment court, not at all, because of the high turnover of that position. So again, we kind of muddied the waters a little bit with DTC, VTC bringing it into the conversation. But absolutely, I don't think one of us up here disagrees with the commissioner's comment that we see that as a successful program in Farmington County. I'm very fortunate to have it.
I agree with 100% with Commissioner Lukasevich's comments on the family values and that in the beginning of it. I look at it another way as well as we can successfully turn these people around in the prison or getting out of prison to start, in my opinion, on helping to reestablish the family values because it is at an all-time low, and I do not see it getting any better anytime soon. And that is just another avenue that we have to pursue or somehow improve do whatever we can do to improve the family values, because no one has a respect for discipline and the family values. And if you can't discipline and get the respect of the adults that are the juveniles or with the children, and that's another cost, the children and youth and domestic relations, that it all ties together. So we have to again work with those agencies as well, and you know, family values. And we have to partner. It doesn't start here. It goes to the school districts, the families, and so many other agencies.
Well, I would make a motion to table and ask the adult probation director to go back to PCCD and see about a modification, maybe to simply one employee, a modification, if that would be acceptable to them. And I wouldn't necessarily put it to a vote this week.
We have a deadline to.
There
I just
is,
disagree with tabling it again.
there is no deadline to accept the grant. However, they say that it should be granted as soon as possible.
Well, the grant period already started.
Correct.
And all we're doing is delaying it.
Correct.
Let's call for the vote.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
No.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
The next item is the advertising for the 2023 meeting schedule. Authorize the advertisements for the 2023 meeting schedule for the Board of Commissioners, Salary Board, Election Board, Retirement Board, and Prison Board as listed.
Motion approved. Second.
How do you get away with it?
Right.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yeah.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
A special commissioners meeting. Authorize the advertisement of the special commissioners meeting to be held on Monday, December 5th, 2022 at 6 p.m. to set the salaries of the elected officials for the years 2026 and 2027.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Animal shelter. For approval, the animal shelter municipal fee assessments for 2023 based on the 2020 census totaling $12,000. This is an increase of $3,362. That was based on the 2010 census.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Courts for approval and execution. An amendment to the agreement with Tyler Technologies of Plano, Texas, to replace the court software from Anita to Odyssey Case Management System. This amendment provides 2 additional users and an annual fee of $8,880. Changes to the payment milestone billing in the amount of $122,080 due to the ongoing conversion, thereby extending the go-live date to March of 2023, as well as changing allotted text messaging limits from 10,000 to 25,000 annually.
Excellent discussion. So I want to thank the courts for their willingness to reapportion $43,000 of 2022 fund. I want to thank the Register of Wills for her allocation of funds to help support this. That's all I have.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
What's the list of it for?
For legal services, having to do with election litigation, seeking approval and execution of an engagement letter from Babs Callan, Clements and Zomnier PC of State College, Pennsylvania, to represent Carbon County in the action involving David Ball and other plaintiffs versus Lee M. Chapman et al. The King's Bench applications filed in the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania, and the fee for services is as listed on Exhibit B.
Motion approved and executed.
Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Real estate, seeking approval and execution of an agreement between the County of Carbon and Reading Blue Mountain Northern Railroad, stating that if the county decides to sell the railroad station, the county shall afford the railroad the first opportunity to make an offer to purchase the railroad station. If the county declines the offer made by the railroad, the county shall afford the railroad the opportunity to match any subsequent offer received before the county sells the railroad station to a third party.
Move to approve the next year.
Second.
Mr. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Any further business? Commissioners reports. Mr. Honor?
I don't really have much anything. I just want to put it out there if anybody's aware of the county job fair for the correctional facility. It's going to be December 3rd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It'll be for hiring correctional officers, and interviews will be held on the spot. The position started 1846. It has an excellent benefit package, including medical, dental, vision, retirement, and pension available. And here are some of the requirements that the media would like, and I'll send it to you. And that's all I have.
Mr. Lukasevich?
Simply one thing, I know we are on the cusp of Thanksgiving, and other than the change of weather, it may not feel it, but I'll simply say happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Mr. Notstein?
Hey, happy Thanksgiving and likewise. Meeting adjourned. We do have another meeting this evening. If the news media would like to escape early. No offense, Sarah. Any questions by the news media? Okay, Amy.
Good morning, gentlemen. Just one question on meeting schedule, August 10th, 2023.
That's because that commissioners conference, the annual conference is in Erie, PA. Which ends at noon Wednesday, And travel times about 6-7 hours, etc. So we have decided that just cancel it now that, we wouldn't be able to prepare much, or hopefully nothing will happen that we need it. If things would change, it something urgent turns up, then we would reschedule it quickly.
In regards to the animal shelter fee assessment, what is that fee assessment? What's?
And so we've been doing for years, that's our per capita, I forget the amount, per person for municipality to help support it. I think all the county or all the municipalities have been paying that fee, and it helps cover the cost of responding to calls in their territory. So as you can see, $12,000 is not very much compared to the total budget of the animal shelter, but that's what that is for.
Ellie, do you have the number that it threw out per?
Whether two to two
Yeah.
or whatever.
Point, it's a percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the per capita fee is a 0.18533.
Thank you. With regards to the legal services, what case is that going on?
Yes, that was Ball versus Chapman, the acting secretary. There was a petition, I believe it was early October, seeking injunctive relief from the King's Bench or emergency authority of the PA Supreme Court. Seeking a directive to segregate ballots which were undated or incorrectly dated, and secondarily to not count those ballots. And there was a split decision, 3-3, granting preliminary injunction prohibiting the county election boards, and this was statewide, from counting those undated or incorrectly dated ballots. And outside counsel was necessary because this was an emergency filing, and it's very fast moving and candidly very complex. So Carbon County was among 14 counties that jointly were represented by that firm, and other counties likewise were represented jointly by other firms. But we're still awaiting the written decision from the court, but they did at least issue an administrative order, and we're bound to comply.
And one last question, the writing in Blue Mountain in northern train station. Does that mean the writing's on the wall that you guys are going to be selling? Or
It will not be said at home down on that. I'm still referring the tree back to the. Yeah, it's
given them an option for should we consider it in the future.
Okay.
But this board has no intent
no.
or thought on that. That's a treasure, you know?
I just
Yeah.
stuff before when I
Yeah.
go in. Okay, thank you.
I don't think we might have to put it to a referendum, and I would have not sold. I would say not sold.
Thank you.
Any questions, 13? Kelly, you good?
Justice grant. What was the motion? Was it to approve?
To approve.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We'll, if we're ready, we'll go into our retirement board meeting. I'll call the monthly meeting of the Carbon County Retirement Board to order. I'll turn the meeting over to Deputy.
There you go. Okay, we'll start by approving the minutes of the previous meeting, October 20th, 2022.
Motion approved.
Second. Mr. Zeleniak? Mr.
Yes.
Blake? Zeleniak.
Yes.
Mr. Bennett. Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Lukasevich? Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Are there any guests concerning retirement board business? Hearing none. Report of executive session. There were no executive sessions. Ratify the warrant, checks number 40855 to 40866. Direct deposits number 7019131 to 701-9532. That's for the month of October.
Second.
Mr. Zelinka,
Yes.
Mr. Bender, I abstain. Mr. Arner,
Yeah.
Mr. Lukasevich.
Yeah.
Mr. Nostine.
Yes.
Activity report for October. There were 8 retirement refunds. There were 2 superannuation retirements. Terry Rock and Brian Bloss, our longtime IT guy. We wish them well in retirement. There was one deceased retiree, Tommy Gerhart, was a 3-term commissioner from January 92 to January of 2004. On behalf of the retirement board, we offer our condolences to his family. Tommy will be missed. Disbursements for October, monthly benefit was $468,675.12. Refunds were $11,905.42 for a total disbursement of $480,580.54. Portfolio value for October 31st of 2022 was $79,714,598.08. And the roller coaster ride, so a couple of weeks later, November 11th, last Friday, was $83,004,030 or $30. So yeah, it's a roller coaster. Sarah's here to go over that. Correspondence, there were none. Solicitors report, no report. And we have Sarah via Zoom. Marquette Associates.
Good morning. Good morning. It's nice to see everybody. It has been a roller coaster, and interestingly enough, you know, every day you check what the market is. I'll have a little bit of an update there for you, but let's go through, and I'm going to put it on the screen. Let's go through the third quarter, and then we'll talk a little bit about October and where we think things are going. So, well. And can you see that?
Oh, no.
All right, hold on. It's a shared screen.
Information share screen.
It's already preset.
Yep, I got it. Share screen. There we go. All right. All right. Can everybody see it?
Yes. All right.
Okay. All right. So what we've done is we looked, and that's page 10. If you do have your books in front of you, we look at what's been happening with growth, and you can see where we saw quarterly how growth spiked in the third quarter of 2020. We're going to talk a little bit because things do go back to this pandemic. You can see the second quarter, but you also have to understand that real GDP growth, we had some issues there, but it was a lot due to the pandemic. Then we started to open up again, and we can see year after year. Now we're expecting that we are going to see consumer spending, a large decrease in consumer spending. One of the things that affected the market and today and yesterday was Target came out and said that they have seen a decrease in earnings, and we're going to start looking at fourth quarter earnings. When we talk about the recession, we talk about what's been going on there, and we look at these indicators, and we look at recessions, and we look at what happened with indicator index has declined 2.7 over the previous 6 months. A decline of this magnitude usually signals a pending economic recession dating back to the mid-70s. So historically, when we see these numbers go down there, we're looking at somewhat of a recession there. And that's actually where the market's looking, you know, because it's such a tight labor market. We go to page 11 and we talk about this increase in fund rates. And we know that in the third quarter, even though they built into the Fed funds going up to 75 basis points, we know in that the market did not like that. One of the things that's been happening with this Fed fund rate, and you can look here, look how they've been slowly in years past. You know, we started down there and then we slowly kind of raised it in 2015 to 2018. And look at the green line. This is current. So we have really signaled a jump. And one analyst came out and said, you know, remember when we were starting to do Fed decreasing and we knew that they were lowering it? It was about 25 basis points, usually sometimes 50. Now the new 25 is now the new 75 basis points. We have really seen this Fed aggressively going up. We know that there's going to be a meeting in December. We probably expect, even though we've seen some good news about inflation going down, we suspect that the Fed came out yesterday again and said that they are still going to look at increasing this rate. So we really have seen this go up. We do expect, hopefully in 2023, that this is going to go down. And then we look at the personal savings rate, and I think this is important to kind of look. It's, again, we're looking at 02 and 06. And 10, look, the consumer, the American consumer was not saving. The only time that this savings rate spiked right here was because of COVID. We had a lot of stimulus go out to the American, and then they started to save and they couldn't spend it. Now we've seen this go down. And this is really, this big dip is what's happening. We look at what's going to happen with interest rates. We look at the American consumer in the last 2 months has spent more on their credit cards than they ever have before in the last 2 years. And they are not just putting the big ticket items. And that has been reflective, like when we look at Walmart's earnings and everything, that they've actually are stopping and not buying, you know, the big TV. They're actually putting food and gas on their credit cards. If we turn the page, we look at the what's happening outside the US. It's the same dynamic. We've looked at what's happening, particularly in the continental Europe and UK, with their inflation data. And, you know, the United Kingdom, we know that the Prime Minister resigned after, you know, only a few weeks. And interestingly, with the UK, they project how much each household's going to pay for gas heating. And it was at $6,500. So the UK stepped in and said they're going to lower it to $2,750. But that is astronomical for the daily, you know, the average consumer there. So we're looking at international markets have been struggling as well. And then we turn the page and we look at what's been happening with everything. And you can see that there's really, in the third quarter, there was nowhere to be. The one thing was commodities. We look at fixed income. Yet again, fixed income is in historic lows. We know that in June, it posted the worst double digits since the fixed income bond index, the aggregate bond index, had started. So really at this point, you know, it's all over the board. And then we go look at the next page and we look at US equity markets. And I find this is very interesting. In the equity market, we look at where those are. Now let's look at energy. So the blended year-over-year earnings growth rate for the first quarter 2020 of the S&P index, the earnings growth was about 2.2% for most companies, what their earnings were. We can see their entries up 43.5%. Their earnings growth is up 134% year to year. So, you know, that really shows how volatile this market is. You know, the rest of the market's doing about 2.2, and then we have one sector doing 134. Value stocks lagged growth stocks during the quarter, and that was especially true for the emerging markets. We have seen that usually, and this will be a little bit reflected in your performance, usually when you've got a down market, that they go and everybody will go towards value stocks. But this market's a little bit differently because they are looking, growth stocks have outperformed with mid cap and small cap stocks. So when we talked about what happened in 2020, and we said, you know, the 5 top stocks moved the market up and it moved it down, those were large cap stocks. When you look at mid cap and small caps, you understand that managers are trying to find companies out there that they know when the market turns around, especially in the emerging markets, that they will actually see more of a better performance there. And then we look at the US equity markets and we talk again about earning contractions. We have been, earnings for this year have been fairly good through 6/30. And, you know, that has really held a little bit of the market then, and then it's kind of twisted. We see 240 companies in the S&P 500 cited the term recession during their earnings call for the second quarter, marking the highest number going back to at least 2010. So, you know, we have been prepared for this. You have diversified in your portfolio, but we do know that it is going to be a hard next couple of quarters until, you know, the Fed has decided to stop raising rates or that they indicate that rates are going to possibly stabilize. And then we could see them going down there. We look at what has happened with those Fed rates. And we know that they have CPI came out, and that was the bump. It came out a lot less than they thought it was last week. So we had a really nice, you saw that really big run on there. Then the Fed came out yesterday, one of the chairmen, and said, the St. Louis Fed said, well, we think, you know, even with this, there's a tight job market, we're still can continue on. Are there any questions about the market? All right, let's jump into how you've done. And that will be, if you've got the report, your portfolio overview. So when we look at that, at the end of September, you were at 77.3 million. You did have a loss of 4.5 million. And you were negative 5.5 versus the policy index of 5.3. So you had a tiny bit of underperformance. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We did kind of narrow it in and look at one of the managers we feel has done extremely well for you. I reached out to them. I talked to both the portfolio managers. They just struggled a little bit. One of the good things, though, is since inception, since we've been here, you've had an annualized return of 8.8% annualized. So you're far above your actuarial assumption. You've been able to take this little dip in the market, and you've had a gain of 30.6. And we look at negative value tilt. I said that with growth, but value tilt time over again, it takes a long time. And being diversified with a value tilt will actually better protects you throughout the markets. And emerging markets overweight within non-US equities. We actually know that that's actually not a negative thing. It was negative attribution, meaning that we had some underperformance there, but you do want a little bit of an overweight in emerging markets, because as I talked about it in the last quarter, emerging markets will take off when the market starts to take off first. We did do
Sarah, excuse me, could you describe value tilts, please?
Sure. So value tilts are that when you look at the S&P and you look at the market and you look at those value stocks. So a value tilt, and we're talking about maybe 1% of the total portfolio there. It just means if you were to do everything straight, you do 50% value, 50% growth. You would look for managers that don't take any of that tilt. A value tilt means that you look for stocks that are value oriented. They are not growth. So they're the large caps. We know that they are the ones that pay the dividends, and that we don't see as much fluctuation and volatility with those kind of stocks. Growth stocks are the ones that managers look for deep discounts, and they actually, it's so small, this tilt, but growth stocks have a tendency to be very much more volatile, but they also have a tendency to be able to give a little bit more of a return in stock pricing. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And then we did do some rebalancing, and we terminated AB Global Core equity manager, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we go look at the managers. And then Morgan Stanley Prime, we did a redemption in late September. And what we did was we also changed the dividend change from reinvestment to distribution. As you know, you were taking out a lot for benefit payments every month. When we looked at what was happening with the market, we wanted to be able to keep you inside inside your asset allocation. We know this market's been going up and down. So what we did was we looked at the prime property, said you've got a nice gain there. So we took a little bit out to make a distribution to keep your asset allocation in line, and also to be able to give you cash. And the reason why we changed from the dividend change from reinvestment to distribution is we want to see those quarterly distributions to help you make those benefit payments, especially in a down market where we're not forced to sell every month. Does anybody have any questions on that? All right, let's go. And we can look there. You can see year to date that you actually did 18.5 versus 19%. That's net. And for the trailing 1 year, you did -13 versus a -14.4. So you did have some nice protection within this market. And then we're going to go to all right, let's go to page 40. Usually it's a lot faster to flip over, but we're on the screen. So let's look at what happened in the 3 months. You can see year to date 18.5 versus 19. You can see that your total equity composite has done well, considering they've outperformed. And then we go look at here, we look at GWK, and this is the manager that I reached out to. They have done very well for you. They have annualized 9.3 since we put them in May 2020, and that's when we went into the OCIO. They actually just had healthcare. They had a little bit of was the main driver of the portfolio lag, and accounted for that 210 basis points of underperformance. They just had 2 stocks that they were in there. They still like both of those positions. That's Calitent and Synosis Health. They look at them in long term. And they believe that they are going to do in down markets, their strategy usually outperforms due to their high quality basis. So they're much more of a value manager in that. And when we look at that, and this is something that goes back, it's the third quarter factor performance within the index favored more speculative, lower quality stocks. You know, when you start seeing back-to-back quarterly down markets, you will have managers within the index go in and look for more speculative stocks. That's great if you're short term, you know, but for a pension fund, we want the manager that stays with quality. So GWK had some underperformance for the quarter, and that's where your underperformance came from. We look at Dodge and Cox year to date did 16.8 versus 19.1. Since we've put them in, they've annualized 13.2 versus 7.7 annualized. They do very well in an up market. You were able to capture that alpha. And then in a down market, we expect them to be doing what they're doing. Artisan has come back. They had some nice stock selection. and they were only down 4.1 versus 5.9 for year to date. And then we just look at MFS low volatility global. They've annualized 6.9% since September 2015 versus 6.3. Are there any questions on any of those managers so far? All right. And then we go to the next page and we look at non-US equity composite. We can see we put Harding Loevner in there in January 2022. We like them. They do well in this particular market. They've done negative 6.5 versus 8.4. And you just see non-US equity. Now, here's what's happened with, we look at the global markets and we look at what's happened with China. China is 30% of the driving force in that index. And China, as we know, has been shut down. They're just starting to get release their COVID protocols and opening up again. With that 30%, you still have those stocks, you hold those stocks, and you know that long term, you should get some good benefits out of there, but short term, that's been a little bit hard. We look at real estate. Now, real estate was slightly negative for the 3 months. Year to date, though, you were up 10.2, and for the trailing 1 year is 20.8. Since we put in real estate, that was one of the things we did in 2018 for diversification. You've annualized 10.1 versus 9.7. And I think it's very important to remember you funded real estate. A large part of that was with funding from equity. So that has given you some stability. It also has been able to give you dividends and be able to take some of those gains. And we saw a huge thing. Real estate has done well year to date. We know that with this market environment, with the Fed raising rates, they are a little bit negative for the quarter, but we're still very comfortable with them. We look at infrastructure. Infrastructure is just a snap of where it is, global infrastructure. It is down year to date 9.7, outperforming the benchmark, but being 9.7, we look at the stock market through September 30 was down 17. We look at the whole portfolio. We look at fixed income. The next page was down year to date 14.4. So it was a diversifier. We know it's a long-term diversification, and it actually took out some of the volatility of the portfolio, which we wanted it to do. We look at your US fixed income. CS McKee is right there. They've outperformed. They've done such a nice job for you. We put in and changed that in May, we put in the Core Plus Bond Fund, and they're down 4.5 versus 4.8. We diversified a little bit on there, and you have a tiny percentage of the Lord Abbett high yield, which actually has been positive 1.5 since we put it in 2020 going forward. Are there any questions on this report? And I'm going to jump out of this. Okay. Are there any questions on the market or the report? And I can say, going forward, we look at that and you did have a nice jump. You're back up to over $80 million as of Friday. I think it's just going to be fairly volatile. And I think that, you've diversified. You've done a great job as a board doing that. And I just think, hanging tight. We did have a nice October. Hopefully November in the next week or two is going to kind of calm down. We will wait for the Fed to come out in December. And it's interesting. This has been a very different market. Usually when we know what the Fed's going to do, the market says, okay, we've priced it in. We've looked at those, the future markets, looked at them pricing it in over the course of the last couple of years in the quarterly reports. It's the first time that when the market did what the Fed did what they did, the market still didn't like it. We saw that huge going down in September. So, even though CPI is coming in lower, you still have this Fed that's consistently, I apologize, consistently saying, we're still going to raise rates. And until we see them get comfortable with this market, with inflation, yes, you want rates to go down, but when rates go down, that means that inflation, CPI, it means that people are not going to be making as much, people are not going to be spending as much. And we look at the 30-year did come down last week, it's bumped back up. And we look at that mortgage. One of the things with mortgages is that, there's probably several of us that have, I've said this before, that have paid over the current 8% right now for a 30-year mortgage. And, down the road, you can refinance. The issue is right now, it's a real estate market. Housing is so overpriced. I'm sure you've seen that where you are. We have here in Pittsburgh that the housing market is still at an all-time high. And then when you get rates starting to jump up, it becomes very hard for the buyer. And that's why rentals are doing so well. And your portfolio, JP Morgan manager, does have about 18% in rental properties, commercial rentals and everything else, and individual rentals, multi-unit family units. And that's where they are deriving a lot of the return from. Are there any questions at all, or?
No questions, Sarah.
Okay, I thank you again for allowing me to do it Zoom. I will see you all at CCAP. And I think that, you are next year, I think it's going to be interesting. I think when you talk to a lot of your county counterparts, you're going to see that your performance has done well. This past quarter, you're in the top 92 percentile. And I think that says a lot. So it's a little tough out there, but it's invested for the long term. And I think with your diversification, we're just going to have to just ride this bump. And hopefully in the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to see a light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Sarah.
All right. Thank you so much. And I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Likewise.
All right. Take care.
The new business, the old business, further business.
Meeting adjourned. Okay, news meeting question. Okay, that was a quick one.